Good afternoon in New York, good evening in Rwanda, Europe and Israel, and welcome whatever time or day or night for all who are joining us from all corners of the world. We are very sorry for being late. There are connection problems in Rwanda. So not all of our speakers, they are trying their best to connect, but because our first speaker is here, we will begin to not abuse your time. Please accept our apology. I'm Yael Danieli, founder and executive director of the International Center for the Study, Prevention, and Treatment of Multigenerational Legacies of Trauma, ICMGLT for short. Thank you very much for joining our webinar today. This International Center for Multigenerational Legacies of Trauma webinar focuses on the challenges experienced in integrating released genocide prisoners of the 1994 genocides against the Tutsi in Rwanda. Presenters will outline the numerous complex inter- or multi-generational challenges experienced by a wide array of those affected, including victim survivors, their families, and the cohabitation with the perpetrators and their families. The timely discussion will delineate multidimensional ways to meet the challenges and draw parallels to other post-genocide situations around the world. This webinar would not have happened if it weren't for the generosity and dedication of ICMGLT's board member, Dr. Mary Fabry, and advisory council member, Dr. Donatilla Mukamana. Your moderator, I am a clinical psychologist, victimologist, traumatologist, and psychohistorian. I devoted much of my career to studying, treating, and preventing multi-generational impacts of massive trauma, to victims' rights, to reparative justice, and to articulating history as it is lived rather than as it is written about. Today's first presenter, Dr. Célestin Sebuhoro, holds a PhD in clinical psychology from the Université Libre de Bruxelles in Belgium. Dr. Célestin's research has focused on the traumatic consequences of the genocide against the Tutsi. He emphasizes the concept of justice, mediation, forgiveness, and reconciliation, intergenerational trauma. He is also a lecturer at the University of Rwanda. Our second presenter, who finally is with us, peace builder, Jean de Dieu Unizewe, who earned a BA in educational planning and management from the University of Rwanda, works at the AMI organization, that's Association Modeste et Innocente, whose mission involves conflict resolution, unity, and the reconciliation process via citizen participation and providing trauma healing and family therapy. As an AMI field officer, Jean de Dieu works closely with different final beneficiaries. Last but not least will be Adelit Mukamana, who holds a master's degree in clinical psychology and in genocide studies and prevention from the University of Rwanda. Adelit is a certified clinical supervisor from Institut Français de Gestalt Therapy and was trained in narrative therapy by experts from the Delineate Center. Ms. Mukamana serves as senior psychologist at Prison Fellowship, Rwanda. We have an hour and a half for the webinar. Each speaker will talk for about 10 minutes. Following an interchange among us, I will open the floor to questions or brief comments from the virtual audience. Sorry, panelists will then conclude with quotes, last words. Please use the chat function and we will do our best to respond to as many as we can. Feel free to direct your question to a particular panelist or to the full panel. We begin with Dr. Célestin Sebuhoro. Dr. Célestin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Yal Danieli. Thank you, the audience. I have to talk the context of Rwanda and to explain closely the problem of cohabitation in Rwanda. Actually, we had, as everywhere you know, you had a genocide against Tutsi in 29 years ago. When it was the phase of genocide, it was a traumatic episode, but after genocide, we had two groups or many, but in complex cohabitation. About, as the moderator said, I'm a psychologist. And as a psychologist, we deal with emotions and feelings. And I can explain you the feelings of each groups because you have what you can call victims and perpetrators. And we have many feelings and emotions like fear. If I can say fear for victim, we can say it can be.
Sorry, Jean-de-Dieu, would you please mute yourself because we hear you speak?
Yeah, mute.
Sorry, Célestin, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, what I can say, the fear for the victim, it's even if we can say the genocide is finished, but we have fear. She can be killed all the time. It can be isolated, and for the perpetrator, it can be like vengeance. I can say now. It can be vengeance. It can be emotion like sadness. For the victim, basically, it was the loss of the family, the loss of identity, of integrity. But for the perpetrators, it can be he must be punished, he must be isolated, and he must be leave the family and go in prison. It was the emotions and the feelings we had between two groups. What we can say, suspicions and mistrust in every group. But according to the governments and NGOs like AMI, and Jean-de-Dieu will say better than me, it was a permanent confrontation because in Rwanda, you have to be clear. All victims, all perpetrators are together in the same village, in the same school, in the same churches, in the same market. They are neighbors. And basically, some are relatives because we have marriage between the two groups. But after the confrontation, and a systematic help for the group. We can see for the victim, he is recognized as victim officially and supported. But for the perpetrators, he has been forgiven, but he must continue to be with his neighbor. It was a hard problem. It was a political problem, a social problem, but basically on my side, a psychosocial permanent problem, because we have to deal with the two groups, and we have no choice. We have no choice. And Jean Dodier will say together, we have what we call the court in justice, the traditional court, gacaca. We had also the ordinary court, but I can say for ordinary court, it was for the planners, the officials, but for the traditional, it was for the same, for the crimes, for the property. And what I can say, what you can do, and emphasis in the webinar, it was the legacy. What is the legacy of those crimes and those consequences of genocide according to the troops? Because now, 29 years ago, we have a new generation. We have what you can call transmission. We have legacy trauma of feelings. We have some young, what do they feel? They would not be where the genocide is done. But now they have many questions. They had what we can call heritage. Heritage is not biological only. It's not social only. It can be psychological. What their feelings, what their emotions, what their cohabitation within the community. I think Jean Dodier will say the cases, because he lived there, and as researcher, as psychologist, social, we can continue, because if we want a true reconciliation and a true cohabitation, we have to stop the cycle of violence. And sometimes violence began with feelings, with emotions, and after there will be act of violence. But sometimes they have it's mental, and after it was physical one. What I can say for the problem of water, it's a long process. It's a long process, but we have done better. But you have other things to do in that of society, because the community and the society, basically for the youth, we have to be careful and to be understandable for the two groups, and to continue the research, but basically the guidance and the activities for valid cohabitation. I think I have not, if I have 1 minute or 2 minutes, I can say we are glad to be here for the topic. We will say the challenges and the problems, but also we will, for you, you can explain us your experiences in different countries, or what you know, or your advice, because we have to do, even if we have in the past, the community and the government have done more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Célestin, for giving us the global context, for reminding us also that there were several routes to justice after the genocide in Rwanda, not only the most famous one outside Rwanda, which was in Arusha, the International Criminal Court for Rwanda, but the Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, sorry, ICTR, but also at home, there was a total commitment to justice. The traditional courts, or gacaca, that you referred to, the ordinary court for more serious crimes. And I'm sure the audience will have other questions too. And thank you for also laying out the different people who would be affected now. Jean de Dieu, you disappeared. You are the second speaker. Our next
the second speaker
disappeared, but if we are all patient, here we go. Delete is back. What about Jean de Dieu? I saw he was struggling with, I believe it was the telephone.
Hello to audience. My name is Jean de Dieu Uwizeye. I'm a field officer at Association Modeste Innocent Ami. As I was asked a question of how we do for reintegration of ex-prisoners, both community and family, I want just to answer the question by starting showing the problems or the challenges met by the ex-prisoners while getting home and getting into the community. First of all, the ex-prisoners, when getting in the community, they have some challenges, some problems, especially between them and the survivors. There are some hatred between both communities, both groups, of course, based on the fact that they have killed their relatives and they have not asked for forgiveness to the survivors. So there is still hatred until they will have asked for forgiveness. Also, there is mistrust. There is still fear, especially to the survivors, thinking that they can be killed again. And as for the perpetrators, they can also think that they can be killed as a revenge. They can revenge the death of their relatives. So there is a problem. There is serious mistrust between the two groups. So to help them now reintegrate, what we call the community integration, we use what we call the community approach, which refers to some activities. The first one can be called the amataba. And the amataba, if I can try to explain it, normally amataba is a flat ground where different people, different groups can meet for the reconciliation journey. So normally amataba, when there is a conflict, when there is a violence, there is someone who is on the top of the hill of the violence, and the one who is on the bottom of the valley of pain. So the one now standing on the top of the hill of violence, saying that I'm allowed to do whatever against you. You have now to accept, to undergo whatever I will do against you. And the one standing on the bottom, the valley of pain, saying that I must now undergo what I'm being, the way I'm being treated by my offender. So the reconciliation now cannot be possible while one is still on the top of the violence and the other one being on the bottom of the valley of the pain. So what we do in the Amataba approach, we help the one standing on the hill to go down or to come down, and the one standing on the bottom of the valley must now, of the pain, must go up, and they meet on the flat ground that we call Amataba. So there are some steps that we do to be able to apply that approach Amataba. The first one, as a field officer, I have to go to the field and to be informed, to get informed about the problem there. And of course, I must consult the authority and the representatives of the two groups, the survivors and perpetrators. So I have to be informed about the problem and the consequences thereof. And after, secundo, we have to go and consult those representatives of the two groups, especially wanting to convince them about the process. I expressed to them about the process and try to convince them so that they may join the process. And after, we train them about what we call right inner power or verticality, because one of the source of the conflict and the violence is because many people are living in inversion way. So we have now to help them recapitulate. We have to help them being in verticality, because when you live in verticality, you can harmonize the relationship, because you have to harmonize to know how will I live, how will I harmonize my relationship with God, with my neighbor, with the money on the world. So we can study all of those in what we call right inner power. And after, I'm trying now to be in summary so that we may use the 10 minutes that I have to use. And after, each group write down the perception or accusation, if you want, of another group. And for other group, it's done like that. So after, they exchange the perception. And after, we have another meeting of now discussing about the accusations or the perceptions. And after now, they, as a conclusion, they sign a contract of what will be done next, of what will be the point of discussion, the point of dialogue, and the activity that we'll be doing together, so just to continue harmonizing the relationship. But so far, they have not asked for forgiveness yet. So we have other two modules or approaches that help us now to perform that journey of reconciliation. The first one is called thérapie sociale. It's an approach borrowed from a French Jacques Lozman, who taught us that approach. And through that approach, we can now build the trust between the antagonistic group. But so far, we have not started addressing the problems. We have not started doing the mediation or the reconciliation. But we try now to build the trust between the two antagonistic groups. And we have some exercises we propose to those two groups so that they may now, first of all, harmonize their relationship. They may increase the trust between them. And after, using what we call restorative dialogue, it is also an approach borrowed from Duke Duchala. It is an American Canadian who taught us that approach that can help us now address the problem from or using the dialogue. And that dialogue has three parts. The first one is called pre-circle, and the second one is circle, and the third one post-circle. And the pre-circle is about the preparation of the circle. It's about getting ready, and it's done within groups, antagonistic groups, differently. So we invite one group and another group differently, and we try to prepare in a non-violence way. Because sometimes when you have not prepared the dialogue well, it can be conducted in a violent way, and it can cause serious problems. So we try now to prepare each group so that they may expose their problem in a non-violence way. So, and after we meet, the two groups meet in in circle now, where they exchange the cause of their conflict, the cause of the violence, and what will be done next to try to end up with the violence and with the conflict. And after, because each party has done the engagement, so after we do what we call post-circle, now for evaluating or assessing the level of satisfaction of each member of the group, because each one is asked how the level of his or her satisfaction, if either he's satisfied or she's satisfied or not. If not, we do again the planification of what will be done next, this time to satisfy every member of the groups. That is how shortly we try now to do the community integration, trying now to reconcile the survivors and the perpetrators. But as for the family reintegration, the ex-prisoners or the former prisoners have also some challenges and problems when getting home. The first one is that normally the wives, especially the wives who stayed home alone, they have taken the responsibility of their husband, like taking decisions and the other responsibilities. But when now the former prisoners get home, the wives don't want to give them back their responsibility and their right of taking a decision as the husband. In the Rwandan culture, it is a man who has some right of taking the last decisions. So, and the wife don't want now to give them back those responsibility and those rights. So it is one of the source of their conflict. Secundo, there are some wives who have given birth to other children from other men who are not their husband. So you see that can also be the source of the conflict. Also, there are some properties who have been taken by their relatives. So you see that can also be another source of conflict. There is another problem of especially the behavior on the culture learned maybe in the prison, I don't know, that the wife cannot support, cannot accept. So those culture, those behavior can also be the source of the conflict and even of the violence. So what we do also some sessions of mediation. Sometimes also can teach the right inner power also. We can do the therapy sociale. We can even do the restorative dialogue, just to try to do the mediation between the former prisoner and the member of their family, just they meet when getting home. So shortly, that is how we try now to do both community and family reintegration of former prisoners. So unless you may have some other questions for clarification or for further explanation. Thank you.
So Célestin, maybe we can continue until they join us, because of course, it's very profoundly knowledgeable on this. So part of what they will look at is the different effects on different families and different family members. You mentioned the no choice about prisoners coming back to the same home, to the same village, to the same community, on all its private that they belonged to before the genocide, and where they actually committed the crimes they committed. Until the other two join us, could you elaborate more on what it's like to go to church, to go to school, to go to work in the neighborhood, etc., as you began anyhow?
Yeah. Thank you, Doctor. When the have to be integrated perpetrators in the village, it must be a preparation. And I think our colleague Jean Dodier will say more in that late. But what I can say, it's we had a problem in the reintegration because after many years, the family was alone and he was and basically if is the husband. And we know our culture and our society, the position of the husband. It's the chair of the family, it's the most responsible of the family. But after returning home, it's not the case. And it's a feelings of disintegration. It's a feeling of sadness. I have no power. I am not the same. I have nothing to say at home. And sometimes they have problem with the wife and the own children. And some and the member of the family, because they have a kind of guilty, because he is a member of the family. He returned home, but the guilt is for all the family. And he can't say, and he can make others with the family like before. And we can say it's not stable. The family, the rulers and the position is not the same in the family. And sometimes it can be divorce, there can be separation, there can be only a kind of I can say not official, but a separation in the couple. And for the children, it is the same.
Adelaide, please. I know you're here.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Mukamana Delite. I'm a clinical psychologist, specialist. With experience working with community. For now, I'm working with Prison Fellowship Rwanda. The mission of Prison Fellowship Rwanda is to contribute to the transformation of disadvantaged people through peace building, livelihood, justice, and psychosocial to resilience. Now, as I told you, I'm working with Prison Fellowship Rwanda, and the Prison Fellowship Rwanda have experience working with prisoners. And now my conversation will be with multi-generational challenge in integrating raising genocide prisoners in Rwanda. To talk about these multi-generational challenges in integrating raised genocide prisoners in Rwanda, first of all, I want to show you figures of genocide perpetrators that have to be released in near coming years. According to Rwanda Correctional Service, RCS, in the year of 2023, above 20,000 prisoners were imprisoned for the crime committed against Tutsi in 1994. Of those, above 4,000 prisoners were sentenced to perpetuity, and above 16,000 will complete their sentence by the end of the year of 2056. Specifically, in this year, in this coming 5 years, means 2023, 2027, we will have almost 80,000 800 inmates to be released. Now, those people have to be reintegrated in the community if you want to build a peaceful community. And the research conducted by Interpeace Prison Fellowship Rwanda and ERDP in the curriculum for psychosocial reintegration of ex-prisoners in Rwanda. That research has been conducted in 21-22, shows that most of the prisoners who were finished their sentence faced the following challenge. And the first is to no longer have relationship with their own family and their families. They betrayed to the shame caused by the bad action, mistreatment by their spouse, fear, stigma, those people received from their community. But there is also loss of trust in them by Rwandan community as the whole, and may consider them to be gone forever or never to return. Another challenge, the guilt and shame for some make them not participate in government programs properly, including keeping themselves away from others, whether in the meeting or dialogue. Those who may, we have Umuganda is a community work that's started by the government, and all Rwandans meet once a month together and they do community work, and after that they meet to discuss about the community issues. And then those Umuganda, some of problems are solved with the community after Umuganda. Some of those people seeing themselves in the mirror of ideology of genocide as confirmed by the evidence of in the Rwanda Investigation Board, RIB, where it's shown that 15% of those persecuted for the crime of ideology of genocide within 100 days of remembering for the 28th time, and they had participated in the genocide against Tutsi. And then they face also poverty and the poor quality of life based on the fact that most of them are old, have chronic diseases, and not have the basic skills necessary to the labor market. The instability resulting from the crime they have committed caused many to move from their place of residence to other parts of the country. You may observe those from north going to the east and to the west. They feel like they no longer are a member of their community, and they go to search life in other areas. We have also family conflict, mainly based on property and offspring. There is also lack of ability for some to pay for the property they have looted. But also, some are not getting into government program, etc. In addition to this study done by Interpeace and the Prison Fellowship in partnership with ERDP, this the research shows that when the perpetrator of genocide are released without proper preparation, it has a greater impact on survivors of genocide against Tutsi in 1994. Some of those consequences on survivors of genocide, there is, we may say, increase of their trauma, distrust of their safety, dispute based on the church and others, death and life-threatening for some. But there also some of survivors need the truth, but not telling the truth about some of the crime they committed in the genocide, including showing where they have put the bodies of those killed in genocide, have a huge impact on survivors, because they want to know where their people have been rejected, to bury them in the honor. That may create resistance on apologizing and telling the truth, etc. There is some roadmap that has been, after that research, that has been developed by Interpeace and partners. One of the partisans is the Prison Fellowship Rwanda, where I work. And they have some principle to help them to come back to the community and feel members of that community. One of the principles is reconciliation with the community and development of civil identity. Have been seen as a prerequisite to that process. Reconciliation and identity, civil identity development will ensure that prisoners released will not exacerbate social tensions, while it will facilitate the integration of former perpetrators in the civic and the social spaces in their community. Here, there is some spaces developed to help them, even when they are preparing to come back to the community. 2 years before coming to the community, they have to meet the community, work with the community, know what happened in the community, and then the community will be familiar with them, and then they will be comfortable returning to the community because even before coming, they have been together. And there is also acquisition of vocational competencies and the soft skills to reduce the risk of relapse. Prisoners will need to acquire up-to-date vocational competencies to make an independent living in the community, but also soft skills such as self-management and the collaboration if they are to be effective at work, trusted by their supervisors. In this roadmap, they run some vocational skills for those who have yet that the ability to do so. And the integration work should begin in a prison and continue after release. The reconciliation process and the acquisition of competences can and should be begun those before released, but we have an experience where we organize some spaces with members of the community, meeting people in a prison. That setting, first of all, facilitate the face-to-face with the community, especially with survivors of genocide. But also in that space, they have time to apologize, to ask for forgiveness. And then after, the community also have time to ask a question, if any, but also to start the journey of forgiving those coming from the prison. And from our experience, we see that it helped them, both sides. It helped, first of all, survivors not feeling there is a threat if those people are released, but also it helps people that have that integrity and the shame to talk about their shame and their guilty, and then to start the journey together, the journey of forgiving and the journey of giving forgiveness. In that protocol also of reintegrating prisoner after the release, there is a deep individualized assessment that should be the basic for deciding with prisoners should if they need other components. Not all prisoners have exact the same need. Some may need individualized accompaniment to ensure that each person is allocated to the group that they may need. We have different protocols. We have protocol that may help people to come together, like sociotherapy. But we have another protocol also called resilience-oriented therapy that help people that have already trauma, depression, anxiety, and panic disorder, and maybe those who developed the dependence on drug abuse. And that protocol, we may help people that have a specific needs. But to know if people have specific needs, what we do is what we call screening, a screening protocol that help prison fellowship and Interpeace as a partner to identify which protocol is appropriate to different people. And then in this protocol also we may need to help people in this to build their civic identity. And this is important because the individual gain awareness, they gain also civic competence and engaging in issues related to democracy, conflict, human rights, governance, etc., but also to nation building. And this protocol will focus on also on these matters. We will encourage also in this protocol people to know how to solve a conflict, but in a non-violent way, and promote a national identity while it discourages partisan and ethnic polarizations. It will help also the adaptation to changing socio-economic because, as I told you, this also focuses on livelihood. It's in the mission of Prison Fellowship Rwanda and other partner like Interpeace. They focus on that area livelihood to help people to change in their socio-economic and the political condition, and with representation of protection of individual right and interest and the respect the right and the interest of other people. We may teach people, help people to understand why they may need to respect others. And that skill may help people on both sides because even though perpetrators has been sentenced for committing genocide, but they still have rights. But at the same time, to prevent the relapse, we may help them also to understand the rights of others in the community. And that roadmap also focuses on all help people coming in their family, but also facing some challenges that they may meet in their family. It's not only between survivors and other communities members, but also with their own families, because some of them, they may meet and their family after 20 years, they may found children grown and they have developed their independence, even for their wives, and then they have to know how to deal with all those changes that happened when they were in prison. But at the same time, people in the community must understand how to help those people to reintegrate their community. With those things that I've told you in this roadmap, in this protocol, will be done at a different level, because we think, and we started to prepare the community, starting by local leaders, and the local leaders have to welcome the person back in their community. But we put in a place a monitoring setting where the integration monitoring we help with cases, case worker about appropriate institution for those people. We will provide them with material, startup material, when they need it, because as I told you, we may have vocational training. But also because the program will work also with local leaders. We will the local leaders and the community in general will have participate with placement, and then we will help them with resilience therapy. Participants in a community-based general health program, resilience-oriented program is one of this program. But also they may need, as I told you, to be reintegrated in their family, where they may meet some challenges, and they will have a protocol called multi-family healing spaces, where participate in the multi-family spaces where they meet their children, wife, and husband together with different family, but the whole family, like 4 to 5 families, and then try to discuss within but also across families. But we have also another protocol called sociotherapy, where people learn to live together, asking for forgiveness, discuss about what happened during genocide, but starting also saving groups. But also they will learn emotional skills as additional social emotional skills that may help them to know how to manage their emotion, but also self-management, emotional well-being, and the collaboration. Thank you for your kind attention.
Okay, we have a whole bunch of questions from the audience, but Adelita, you're here to respond to them. Do you hear me? Okay, first I would like to thank Anne Dietrich. Robbie, would you let Anne speak for a minute? Please put her on. Anne, would you tell us where your expertise are, that you are so familiar with these methods?
Thank you so much for the floor. Well, I've been working in Rwanda for 6.5 years, and I'm friend with Duke Dukshera, who is a trainer of this restorative dialogue, and I've been living next to Ami and worked with Jean de Dieu. So yeah, and I'm a trainer of nonviolent communication, where restorative dialogue is coming from. That's often happening after violence happened in a community, to restore the wounds and the community. And I can put in the chat some links to this approach, if
that would be wonderful. Please do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Noam Shimel, you have a very long comment. Would you like to share it with us? Are you here, Robbie? Could you put Noam on? Noam, are you here? So let me share with everyone. He says he hopes we will hear from survivors on this webinar, particularly in relation to the current presentation, which thankfully addresses how survivors' physical and psychological safety is threatened by the perpetrators. So that's actually a question. Is it threatened? Can you tell us their reaction? He says these fundamental issues of structural violence and structural trauma are intrinsic to the release of genocide perpetrators from prison, many of whom are unrepented, are released prematurely, and who go on to engage in criminal acts against survivors. These include the murder of survivors, abuse and harassment of survivors, verbal taunting of survivors, theft of the land and property of survivors, and ongoing threats against them, both implicit and explicit. Given that survivors in Rwanda do not receive the most basic social services to which they are entitled by right, including adequate health care, quality housing, and sufficient psychosocial support services, they are at a huge structural disadvantage in relation to perpetrators who have family and financial resources that survivors lack. Célestin, you're the only one here. Would you like to comment on that?
Excuse me?
Would you like to comment on Naum Shimel's comment?
I can see the comments. I have one question or comment from Gilbert Ndahayo.
Right.
Yeah, I think question illogical knowledge of genocide? No.
Right.
I think it's not now to discuss about genocide or not. I think to say that it was in evidence. They have genocide, they have perpetrators and the victims. And what to have to do is to make and to work with the groups and mediation in order for a long term of reconciliation. I think we have to build the next society, the generation, the future, because on the past we have many antagonists, many questions, but now it's time to go through the next generation and see for the necessity of cohabitation, for the necessity of the country, and for the new generation, because we have many challenges, but we can discuss as a professional, as psychologists, social workers, as lawyers, but we have to move through in deep of the question and to be, I think, realist according to the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. And I see, Jean, they're off. They disappeared again. So we don't have them to respond. There are many very complimentary comments. It's a pity that Adelit got off. And Jean de Do. There are many complimentary, grateful messages from the 3 different continents about these amazing slides. So, so Adelit should be very happy. Jacqueline, Rabbi, would you put Jacqueline on, please? Jacqueline, please join us. Jacqueline, unmute yourself, dear. Jacqueline?
Yes, Dr. Daniele, can you hear me?
Hello, dear. It's very good to
Yes, yes.
hear your voice.
Yes.
Yes,
So,
please speak.
yes, I'm actually going to read because I had written down my comment and my questions. So I'm going to read it. I think it will be much easier.
Okay, good.
So yeah, first, I thanked everybody for their presentation, but my biggest question is similar to actually the same question that Noam asked, is about, we are here today talking about the challenges faced by released perpetrators, but we also have to acknowledge, as Noam said, and as I'm well aware of, as a survivor and also somebody who has an organization that works with survivors, about how do we ensure what I wanted to know from the presenters, what their organizations are doing to ensure both the physical security of survivors, because since the genocide, literally every year, in particular around the commemoration period, even those of us who live outside the country, I'm in New York, we get reports about survivors being harassed, being threatened, about threatening notes being left on their doorsteps, about survivors being killed. So I wanted to hear what the organizations are doing to ensure the physical security of survivors who have to live with these released perpetrators. And the second comment, I wanted to learn more about the services that are being provided to deal with the trauma that inevitably comes with having to live next door to somebody who murdered your family, who raped your mother, who raped your sisters. So I think I really appreciate hearing about the challenges faced by survivors and what's being done to address them. And the second question was about, I wanted a clarification about the Amatawa concept that I believe Jean Didier discussed. It sounded very problematic for me because as a survivor, as a lawyer, as a survivor's rights activist, I don't in any way conceive how a survivor and a perpetrator can ever be placed on an equal ground. Amatawa means equality, as he said. How can they be placed in an equal ground, either materially, because survivors lost their entire families, they lost their properties, real and personal. And so I don't see how the equality concept works between survivors and perpetrators, either materially or morally. So I would like to get a comment about that. And I do appreciate what was just said about Rwandans understanding that this is our reality. Post-genocide, the survivors have had to live next to the perpetrators, mostly because there was such a large number of participation in the genocide. But I think it's important to realize that this is not a normal situation. It should not be idealized in any way. It should not be seen as like an ideal concept of justice, because in many ways, survivors having to live next door to perpetrators is another form of victimization for me. It's a daily trauma, and it has to be understood as such. And services have to be provided to make sure that survivors' rights are also being respected. Sorry for speaking too long, but those were my questions, and I would appreciate some comment around those topics.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Célestin, you're the one speaker here for everybody. Would you like to comment on Jacqueline's questions, please?
Yes, I can comment on Jacqueline's questions, but for specific questions like Amatawa and concept and like that, I think Jean Didier will talk more, or we send the more explanations. What I hear from Jacqueline Murekatete, it's the security of victims. And what she said, it's true. And according to the trauma, because in the reality, we have, it was a genocide of proximity, because they are neighbors, they were neighbors, they are now neighbors, and they will be for the future, they will continue to be neighbors. And as we said, the government put in place many structure for reconciliation. But as she can say, it can be political and social, but on individual, on the confrontation as usual. You have to make a kind of confrontation, but a kind of what you can call externalizations, because we have emotions, we have what inside, but we can go outside. Sometimes there are negative emotions, negative feelings, but according to the process and to the guidance and the social therapy, sometimes we can say really, when we are neighbors, what happened, what we have to do, is how to continue to live together in peace, without confrontation, without negative confrontation. Yeah, because sometimes when you are in towns or in other countries, you can live alone, you can have your own program, you can have your own business, but here it's not the case. So what you say is true, but you have to make many strategies on political, social, but on individual. And what you said according to trauma, it's true. I am a psychologist. They have many trauma, even among the new generations, what you can call PTSD, and many other problems. We can continue. I think you have many challenges. You have many problems, but as you can see, it's possible, but it's hard, and you have to continue, and you have to say everybody, because as perpetrators and victims, we have genocide. It's a problem basically of the government, of human rights. You can sensitize everyone and make a country of legal and justice, and say everyone, if you make a crime, you will be punished. And it was, as you say, reconciliation, you say psychology too, but you don't forget justice issues and punishment if need be. So it's a long process of reconciliation of the society, and the process is going on and will be continue. And I think everyone must be careful and continue to work with the society and the program of the government, but with civil society, with NGOs, with experts in psychology, in mental health. I think we have many things to do, and but you have done also many things. I think now Adelit is there. She can continue as the specific questions, like the organizations, and if Jean Jodier will be there, she will explain more Amataba concept. Thank you.
Thank you, Célestin. Adelit, would you comment, please? You heard Jacqueline's question and Jean Schimel's critique.
Can you come back to the question, please?
It's a long question to repeat. You couldn't hear?
Yeah, I couldn't hear, but hearing what Dr. Sebuhoro was saying, about the situation here. What I can add on that is it's a long journey that we have to go, because we have the first generation that have been there during the history of Rwanda, but you have also second generation that is like a generation that didn't live in that circumstances, but have that legacy from their parents. Sometimes they either they can learn what the society have to do is to find a space. What we try to do, a safe space where people can talk about their feelings, their thoughts, and without being judged. And in my organization, what we did is definitely creating those space that are safe, and then allow new generation to talk about their issues, what their legacy, but
Yeah,
also
can you elaborate some more about, because this is a webinar of the International Center for Multigenerational Legacies of Trauma, indeed. Can you elaborate some more on the next generation?
Yes, thank you for the question. What we observe during in this after genocide context, we see that we have some young generation that have the same symptoms like others. And then we were wondering why. And what we saw when we have a dialogue with them is to think that they cannot, what we call, think that they're not told in their family, but they observe how their parents behave. And it's like, it's a mechanism that is there. It's not that things that they don't know how to elaborate, they don't know how to talk about that feelings, but they have that suffering. And sometimes when they ask about what happened, parents are not able to respond to the generation, and they try to imagine things and create their own stories. And it's dangerous because sometimes that those things that are not said in the family or badly said in the family, that create things, some conflict in generations. And you may observe tension between children from perpetrators' families and children from survivors and other children, but they don't know how to express that. But when you create spaces for them, they put on words on their feelings, their suffering. And in our organization, we have what we call multi-family healing spaces. We create spaces where also they can meet their parents to talk about what happened, what's difficult to the parents to talk about, the history. And in that safe space, they support each other. They have their own issues like the young generation, but also they have space where they can have a conversation with adults and understand how they feel also. Because sometimes the adults think not saying things, it's protecting children, while it's not. But how to talk about the history without wounding or transferring that hatred. That's what we create in that safe space, and they talk about their issues, and then they learn what happened in a way that may construct them, not destroy them. They ask questions where there is professional to facilitate that conversation, but also parents have that space also that protect them, not being judged by the children also. That space help children of both sides, perpetrators, genocide of genocide, but also others from the Tanis, they didn't understand the history of Rwanda, the marginalized people who were through the history being marginalized by others, things like that.
Thank you. I see Grace Kagoira is here, and Grace and I have been, and some others have been working on translating into Kenya, Rwanda, the Danieli inventory of multi-generational legacies of trauma, which is ready to be used. And hopefully we will create more interest in the country to study more about the effects on the children, so they can and learn more. And so I'm inviting all of you to be part of that ongoing important work. There is Jean de Dieu is not here, but there are several questions about the concept of Amataba. If you can vary about the meaning of it and the use of it, people are not perfectly happy with that. Can you comment on that, please?
Amataba normally is a Kinyarwanda word that means simply valley, where there is valley, the way we call Amataba. Sometimes we compare that with, if there is hills, people can't see each other.
No, I understand. We understood that. We understood that. Let me be a little more specific. I'm actually referring to Gilbert Ndahawe, who you all know from his films, etc. He says that the Amataba derives from Gutaba, which means to bury.
Mm-hmm.
So he's asking, what do you bury?
But I'm not going to.
Yeah, we might have a special
talk about very much Mataba.
Okay.
But what happened in those
You're freezing
groups is a combination of psychoeducation related to intergenerational transmission, cultivation to strengthen this.
Oh. Huh.
Yeah, I'm talking about what we did in the spaces, to just creating a space where there is a combination of psychoeducation related to the intergenerational transmission of trauma or hostility. We create a healing dialogue and skills cultivation to strengthen collective responsibility, but also the agency and improve intergenerational patterns of communication within and across the family, within families and across the family, because in those families, we have families that go together, but we have also other families. We have like 4 to 5 families, and among those of even others, if you have, sometimes you have people with a lot of conflict, and we're wondering why. Sometimes is the communication that is lacking in those families.
We understood that. I think the questions about the concept
and they talk about intergenerational transmission,
they talk about how to have adults only talking about their issues as adults.
There is a lot more to talk about. I suggest that perhaps some of us get together and write a paper about the concept of Amataba and the meaning of it and the difficulties in all of the meanings related to it and the use of it as therapeutic. I think it's another challenge. This has been an amazing webinar, and I know there are other people wanting to ask some more questions. And Andita started writing the paper right here. So maybe Anne and Gilbert and Célestin and Jean de Dieu will write a paper together. But it sounds like it's a very worthy concept to understand in depth and to understand the problematic if we don't understand it in depth. Donna is asking whether people involved in Jean de Dieu's program are requested to join or they join voluntarily. Célestin, you're the only one here. Can you answer? Unmute.
I think I can answer easily on behalf of Jean de Dieu. I think there is many challenges, and one of the solution it's the implication of everyone in the process of reconciliation, in the process of mediation. And as I know, the experience of AMI, the NGO in the South, Modeste Innocent, because I write an article from the reconciliation from that, but I have a summary in English, but the article is in French. What I see, it takes many times, but at the end of the day, we have the reality as it must be. They must be together, even if they have many challenges. And what I can say, it's possible. It's possible as they have many challenges. But I can connect Donatilla and everyone to Jean de Dieu, and he can explain more and give explanation and examples and case studies. I think they had that because sometimes when I was there, I think 2 years, I think before COVID, there was a group, and sometimes there are many antagonists and conflict. But at the end of the day, they had marriage between two families. Can you imagine that? From the new generation, because they said the background of each family, they know that, but at the end of the day, they have a decision to be together as a couple. It was very hard, but it was true. So I think Jean de Dieu will explain more with the case of studies and explain more the reality. Because when you are in UK, in London, even if in Kigali, you can be alone. You can have your own program. You can do your business as you want. But on the village, it's not possible. You have a permanent confrontation with in the community. You have perpetrators, family of perpetrators, the members and the victims. It's very hard. And if you have many questions and many curiosity, come and go with in the family, in the village, because you have the reality. And so you will be back, we have to see and to analyze the situation.
Yeah, and I believe that today's webinar opened so many questions.
Yeah.
I suggest that we hold another one next year.
Yeah, if it's
So
possible.
we have lived through some of the collection, and please continue your studies, continue your understanding.
Yeah.
Because this opened questions in every level: political, societal, communal, family, generational, economical, everything, justice,
Yeah.
everything I can think of. So it's rather a brilliant challenge that we started challenging among us, including the concept use. Noam, would you please email me directly the references? Email all of you anything that can be put in our library to teach in any language, Célestin, not only in English, could be French too.
Yeah.
That is related, should be in our library. So please make sure to send it to us. Now, Enid, I see that you would like, can you make a very, very brief comment before we close? Rabbi, can you let Enid speak? I believe she had her hand up.
I'm unmuted.
Good. So
Okay,
speak.
just very quickly. First of all, thank you everyone for a very interesting conversation. I think although each country and each situation is different, there were so many things that you said, which we worldwide in all of our different communities can use in relationship to what can be done with prisoners before they are released, when they are released, preparing the family, all of these things. I'm not sure what they're done, but I'm certainly going to look into it a little bit more in my own city and just see where things are. So you've opened a wonderful conversation to all of us. And we wish you in Rwanda, particularly since that's where you are, all the best. And please know that we all care about what's going on. Thank you for the opportunity to say a few words.
Thank you, Enid, so much for your heartwarming and, as always, intellectually stimulating remark. And thank you for being a friend of the center. It's deeply appreciated. And yes, there's a whole field, Célestin and I discussed it a little bit, of restorative justice that actually, to a large degree, attempts, it's also the same challenges, attempts to examine all these questions. And we shall continue to explore them. I thank everybody. I thank everybody who stayed patiently despite all of the technical challenges, on top of the intellectual and psychological and societal and political challenges we explored. And we promise you, you have Adélie, Jean de Dieu, Célestin, you have homework between now and next year to update us on these amazing challenges that came up. And thank you for everyone's engagement in the questions, etc. But Adélie, you must send the references, please. Our library must have everything related. So it doesn't just remain with you, it's shared with the world. And from the bottom of my heart, God bless you.
Thank you.
We continue.
Thank you. It's an
Thank you.
it's unfortunate the network was not good.
Yes, take care, my dear.
Thank you.
It's God's work, huh?
Yeah.